Hello, welcome to the Lately in PHP podcast. This is episode 69. I'm Manuel Lemos, and as always, I have here with me Artur Saw, since from the not so cold anymore Latvia, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a little bit colder, a little bit than when you are.
Well,
Okay, probably a lot.
over here it's hot. Actually, sometimes I feel bad because it's above the 32 degrees and
Yeah, that's why I like living in a colder country because you always can get warm, but it's harder to get colder.
yeah, that's true. And since the swimming pool is not working, sometimes you cannot get refreshed when you wish. But anyway, we are here to talk about um, JavaScript topics, and as always, I mean PHP topics. Just because today we inverted the order of the recording of the podcast. Anyway, talking about PHP, we are going to start as always by
Don't
the
worry,
latest versions.
we can write it off to the hotness in your area.
Yeah, actually, it makes me sort of tired all this heat, although I have a fan next to me. But okay, let me share the screen here. We are going to start. There was like three of the latest major versions, 5.532 with security fixes as expected, and then 5.618 with some security fixes and others not so much about security, some bug fixes, and then PHP 7.0.3 that was released on February 4. And I don't know, as always, there is not really many things to comment about these fixes, just a regular update. So we are going to move on to the next topic, which is the first of several topics related with the features that are being proposed for the next PHP version, which will be like PHP 7.1. So the first thing that I wanted to comment, just a minor suggestion for a new feature, which is that to have a constant that it identifies the current engine that is running PHP at the moment. It could be PHP by Zen engine itself, which is the most common implementation, but could also be HHVM, which is the engine that runs Facebook Egg and their hip hop implementation. And or could be maybe, for instance, Zephyr. Zephyr is a sort of language derived from PHP that can compile into native PHP extensions. So it would also be a possible engine. So there is not much to say about
I
this.
just want, yeah, I just want to comment that on one hand, you can understand that it would be useful if you want to write a PHP class that would be both PHP and Hack compatible. It would be great to have such a check.
Yeah.
Right. But on the other hand, it starts to be similar to the cross-browser nightmare that we had in JavaScript and try to get away from.
Yeah. And you have conditional code based
Yeah.
on browser identification. I
Yes.
think that's basically it. Anyway, I think people that need this feature are already using some kind of a detection, I suppose.
Probably feature-wise or a function exists or something like that.
Yeah, I think that is the case. Well, anyway, I don't see much problem with this feature. Use it if you want. If you don't
Yeah.
use it, it will not affect you. So, moving on, I'm going to talk about another proposal for a feature that may be actually useful when you want to deal with arrays. In PHP, arrays could be are usually hash tables in practice, but the keys can be also numeric, meaning that the it will be like a regular array in other languages.
Indexed array.
Yes. So the idea is to have a function named as numeric keys to tell you what kind of array is that. Although you can also have mixed keys like numeric and strings. Okay, I personally I don't feel that I need this type of function in Redis. Probably for somebody that is using some kind of programming that dynamically adapts to the kind of parameters that are being passed, in this case arrays. So there are probably use cases for this.
Yeah, that's actually interesting. On the one hand, yeah, I also didn't have a use case for this, but on the other hand, if I would need one, all the implementations would be kind of hackish. More
Yeah.
to say, yeah, it's the same as provided looping and checking the type or comparing the lists is, I think, could be even worse maybe.
Yes. Probably would kind of wasting CPU cycles on traversing the whole array to tell if it is as numeric keys or not. So probably this feature would be implemented with some internal flag that
Yeah,
as the elements are added, it can keep track whether they are numeric or not.
exactly.
Okay, moving on, talking about another new feature that is being proposed, or at least discussed, because sometimes some of these feature proposals do not even end in a RFC. They could just drop by the proponent in the discussions. And in this case, the idea is to add interfaces to traits. So traits are a feature that can implement parts of a class, and the idea is to specify that the trait should implement an interface, which makes it a bit confusing because interfaces are supposed to be implemented by classes, not traits. Traits are just excerpts of a part of a class. So I don't know if this is going to pass. I have looked at the discussions. Some people are not very keen with this proposal because it probably makes it more confusing.
Yeah,
Some,
on one hand, yes, it makes it more confusing. On the other hand, I think the issue that he presents is more like, uh, so he has a trait that follows specific interface, and if he could assign tell that this trait uses this interface, then he would not need to declare the same thing in the class. So if, by from the class perspective, by using this trait, it would automatically also use this interface instead
yes,
of.
I see your point. So the class doesn't have to know that the trait needs that interface or implements that interface.
Yeah,
I think in that case it would make some sense, but some people are complaining that probably will make it Okay. This time it was not my fault. For some reason, Chrome crashed while I was preparing the next tab. So maybe we should restart from this feature.
Okay.
Okay, where is it now? Traits with interfaces, right?
Yeah.
Okay, moving on, we are now going to talk about another proposal which is related with implementing the support for traits in interfaces. Traits, as you know, are uh, portions of code, variables, and functions that can be included in one or more classes. So the idea here is that traits also implement interfaces that can be used by the actual code that is implementing the trait. So uh, this is a bit hard because some people actually commented that uh, whoever has to implement the interfaces are the classes. So
Yeah. But
if
but but
the
there is a use case that basically, uh, if a trait implements an interface and class implements a trait, it does not have this interface. So you specifically for each class that uses trait, you also need to define this interface in the class. So it would be just easier to have a trait implement an interface, and it would automatically apply to the class that uses this trait too.
yeah, well, it seems the idea is to implement the the trait, the interface code in the traits, not so much use other interfaces that are not implemented by the trait. But there was a certain discussion. Some people said that it would be confusing, and whoever has to implement the interfaces are the classes. And but I understand that in some cases the trait will bring some functionality that would mean that it would implement the interface that the class needs. So it seems to make a certain sense. I just don't know if this is going to be a proposal that is going to be submitted as an RFC or even be voted after that by the majority of the voters that will evaluate it. So for now, it's just a proposal, and let's see how it goes. So moving on with the proposals, this time there is an RFC that proposes the deprecation of the var keyword. As you may know, since PHP 5, var is the equivalent to public. So var was introduced like with classes that came in PHP 3 already. The idea is to make it different from functions. So classes would have variables and functions, and var would tell that that declaration is a variable. Although it's a bit redundant because in PHP that variable declaration starts with the dollar mark. Anyway, that is something that came from the past, and the idea here is to deprecate it with the argument that would make the language less complex. And from more discussions that I've seen, many people are against it because if you don't want to use var, just do not use it. And if deprecating it is not going to add any value to the language, they are just opposing to to the idea of deprecating it because it probably break well, it will mostly certainly break legacy code without actually adding any value. And I have seen, I don't know so far because this is not yet up for voting, but I've seen many people against, is precisely because of this reason. And but the people that are in favor also said that many projects, they pick like the 10,000 projects, most popular projects in the GitHub or something, PHP, and notice that like 92% use public and not var.
You can scroll
So
down. I think the results are there.
yeah.
Yeah, this one.
Oh, okay. I was telling top of my mind, and so they say 62% use public only, 27% don't use public variables of any kind. So they do not even use public variables. Everything is private. 4% use var internally, and 4% have a dependency which uses var. And then there was a minority of errors. So, well, if like 94% use public, why bother upsetting the remaining classes that are probably older that use var? And so this is one of those proposals that does not add anything to the language.
Well, I can try to add my perspective. I
Sure.
actually started with PHP when with version 5, so it already did not have, well, it had var, but it was not suggested to use it. So I don't have any code with var variable, and my opinion would be that if there is some technical maybe gain from deprecating it, that it would maybe make it easier to implement something, or open up to new possible features, or easier maintaining, that yes, we could deprecate it. But if not, if it just to remove this var, then should not do that at any point, because old libraries, as you said, basically old libraries depend on it, and probably those old libraries are not up to date, and nobody will ever be updating them, so it could
Yeah.
cause lots of damage to developers that using them.
Yes, I think this is at a problem only at the source level, because if you have old packages that use the var, old classes that use var, it's very easy just to replace var with public. It would not change anything, but if this proposal to be deprecated goes forward, and then removed in PHP 8, because there are two things being proposed here. One is deprecation, then removal, and the removal would be put just for PHP 8, and PHP 8 we don't know how many years are we apart from that. Probably 5 years or something, if things do not move as fast, not move faster than in the past. So the idea is probably deprecate old code. The only thing that I probably see value on this is that deprecating old code will sort of force somebody to maintain that code or replace it with newer code. And I don't know if there is much value or just causing the expense of maintaining that code. But okay, there is always people that are just upset that there is old code being in use, but that is just the way how it goes. If it is working, people don't want to change it. Okay, and let's move on to the next discussion, uh, which is an RFC about other planned discussions, not this one of VAR, because that is not yet approved. So there is a proposal here that I don't know if it is really needed to have a single I would say, RFC to just propose the deprecations, because there are individual FCs to deprecate things. And then there is a list of already discussed things to deprecate, and many some of these things are just basically things that for which there are alternatives to achieve, like the autoload function. Now there is the SPL autoload register, the PHP error message is a variable that will get the non-fatal error, and now you can use error get last method, function. The create function, I don't know if there is an alternative except for using eval. Eval could serve for many purposes. So in this case, I do not see the value of removing this create function because you would have to maintain the code and do something with using alternative code. Then there is rand, srand, and get rand max. The idea here is to use empty rand. I suppose this is, if I got this right, it is meant to be it uses better seeding for generating random numbers.
It uses, I think, another algorithm to generate it. It was Mersenne Twister algorithm, probably some other algorithm that generates the random number.
Yeah. And sometimes I wonder why don't they just replace the old functions with the code that wraps around these new functions that provide alternatives.
True.
Anyway, that's probably going to cause some backwards compatibility breaking. And okay, then there's mbstring func overload. I've never used this, so I don't know, but it seems to be to replace a subset of strings functions with analogs from mbstring extension. Oh, I see. If mbstring extension is there, it will replace the function of certain functions, so they can work with multi-byte strings better.
Using normal functions.
And then there is unset cast. I never use cast, so I wonder what this means.
Nullify a variable.
No. Oh, I see. Well, since it returns null, they want to unset it. Well, I don't know. Anyway, these are backwards incompatible changes. So the idea is to deprecate them in PHP 7.1 and remove them in PHP 8.0. So again, it's like the discussion around var. Are these really necessary to remove? But I don't know. Usually these things get removed, and the developers have to deal with it when they get to the PHP 8.
Again, from my perspective, I don't think I used any of those functions. Well, apart from rand, I know I used rand because if you Google PHP random, you will have rand as the first result. So there's nothing you can do about that. But I think deprecating them would be quite similar to deprecating var, and they could be put in the same bucket. So maybe if those are allowed to deprecate, then var should be deprecated too, and someone could develop an extension to plug into new PHP and allow all the stuff to exist again, or something like that.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Anyway, moving on to the next topic, which is about having pluggable mail transports, meaning that you could alter the method by which the email messages are sent using the mail function. So for now, this is just the initial discussion. There is no RFC yet, but there is a patch that is being proposed, which basically consists in adding new mail transports and be able to change them so you can send the message instead of using the send mail executable. It will use probably SMTP, I suppose.
Or anything you provide. I think the great example was in the same email that PHP by default handles sessions in files, but you can provide a custom way to handle session storage.
Yeah.
By setting a function and stuff. So it would be similar to mail. You just provide a transport layer or extension that would handle it. I think that what they mentioned, the use case is that you can't always provide the default send mail, and for shared hostings that many PHP developers use, they can't just say we don't support mail function, use something else. Now someone will ignore it, someone will not read it, the support will be full of questions why mail is not working. And so it would be easier to set up something else for them.
Yes, what happens is that some hosting companies just replace the send mail executable to route messages to a certain SMTP server that is probably in a different machine, rather than using the local mail server that is probably not even installed. So that could be useful for that purpose.
Is there any mail server that is installed on every Linux?
By default, you should have something compatible with SendMail, not necessarily SendMail, like Postfix or Qmail or something else.
Okay.
But usually yes, because Linux is a Unix system. Unix system installers are very based on email for many user tasks. Okay, let's see how this goes. Now moving on to another topic, which is the new feature that was implemented in PHP classes side that will allow developers to find packages recommended by other packages. As
developers.
Yes, exactly. Sorry. So, like in 2014, the PHP class site implemented a package recommendation system. So, if you want a recommendation, you just go there and click here in the recommend PHP scripts, and you can ask for a recommendation. So eventually another developer comes here and suggests a package. Internally there is a sort of notification system that will send messages to developers that match the keyword, that have packages that match the keywords of the request. So if you ask for something about forms, the site will look up packages that have keywords related to forms and notify the developer so they can eventually recommend packages that they have developed. So the idea is to have recommendations ready, but many users are not willing to wait. So it would be better if there was already some recommendations already for that kind of recommendation request for the purposes of the user. And sometimes there is actually something about those recommendations, those needs of the developer. So the recommendation could be attended right away. For instance, if you go here in the search, what was implemented, now in the search page, when you have a search for something, it will match not only pages about packages and other stuff, but also recommendations about what you search. So if I search for XML parser, it will show me several recommendations that already exist about XML parsers. Then you can go there to those recommendations and see if they match what you need. This is good because, for instance, as you may see in this case, there are like 85 packages on the search, and then you have only 5 recommendations. So from these 85 packages, probably there are the most recommended packages for this purpose, XML parser, are probably here. So you have much less effort to search. In some cases, if you use more specific keywords, like for instance, let's say I wanted an XML parser for RSS, I can go here and already see just one recommendation for this. I mean, one recommendation request. There could be many suggestions for this request. So the idea is to combine the accuracy of user recommendations with the speed of search engines. So we don't have to wait for somebody to come and search for and let you know about what it will recommend for your needs. And several authors can recommend what you are looking for, and with this integration in the search pages, you can have this already at hand. So it is a nice feature that was finally implemented on the top of another feature that was implemented. There were also other features that were implemented here on search page. Some people want to know if the packages are up to date, and then now you can see the date as well, the last update in front, so you can see if the package that appears in the results are already are recent or old. Anyway, the idea is just to tell you about this feature. So moving on to another thing that we wanted to comment is about the Innovation Award. Let me share the screen here. As you may know, Dave Smith was the winner of the Innovation Award for 2015 for the wall here, and he gave an interview. So there is this article that presents the interview as well, the final results by author and by country. So United States won by country, as you mentioned before, and there is also at the end the hangout and the video of the hangout and the audio of the interview with Dave Smith, and there is also interviews with the other nominees that helped the United States to win as a country. So we can see interviews of practically all of the nominees: Matthew Knowlton, Nick Daniels, Asher Wolfstein, Jack Patterson, Matthew Ball, Richard Williams, and then Dave Smith as the main winner. So this is just to let you know that if you didn't miss this article, you can go there and find more about what they have talked, which is always interesting. Some of them even suggested improvements on the site features. It was quite nice. And similarly, there was also an interview with Anders Toth of Hungary that won the Innovation Award individually and by country in the JS Classes site for the JavaScript Innovation Award 2015. So these are the basic of these articles. I don't know if you want to comment anything, Arthur.
Not much, apart from I'm still astonished that with the whole JavaScript community, we don't even have a JavaScript icon, a logo, and we have a PHP elephant.
Yes.
Why can anyone come up with something interesting that we could use?
Yes, because in reality, many of the authors that contribute to JS classes came also from the PHP classes. So, and that is a sort of a JavaScript world apart. And with that, I also like to take this opportunity to invite more authors to contribute to the JS classes site, because it's still needing more contributions. It's not like the PHP classes that has many nominees, and that for which we will be talking ahead about the nominees. So with this, we practically end the Lately in PHP podcast. I'd like to thank you, Artus, again for coming. And we'll be back next month once again with more interesting PHP topics. So on my behalf, that is all for now. Bye.
Bye.